Hello, everybody. It is 2:28 p.m. Central Time on the 21st of May, 2021. It's Friday here in the United States. Hope you're doing well. And I've got some breaking news. First of all, I've been gone off YouTube for like 3.5 weeks. Long story on that. Not going to go into it. Partially by choice, partially because I had to. But that's all taken care of now. We are back in the swing of things. I appeared yesterday on my Twitch stream telling everybody we were back and that things were about ready to go through the roof. And here we are. Today, an extremely large earthquake struck over in China, of all places. Let me go ahead and get a display capture turned on here so you can see what I see. And I'll show you the big quake. Here it is. 7.4 earthquake struck in central China. And it's the largest earthquake in years for Asia in general, and specifically for China. It's even been longer. Now, we're also dealing with a 6.1 earthquake that struck at 1348 UTC, and then several hours later at 1804, the 7.4 struck. So first we got this one, the 6, plus a bunch of 5s, then the big one, and that, I guarantee, caused major damage in the area. But the good news is, over in China, we all know it's very populated, but once you get beyond, over in the Tibet region, over in central China, over into the deserts and the mountains, it gets very sparsely populated as opposed to the more low-lying areas, more fertile areas in China. Now, I'm going to pull the coordinates on the 7.4. We'll just show you where it is in relation to the mountains, etc. But this is the largest earthquake in years for all of Asia. Let's get all the smaller ones out of there. So there is the big one. And we'll go, I guess, with the USGS 7.3, just to get the further decimal points on the coordinates for this. And again, this is the biggest one in years for the area, and it's the biggest one on the planet in about a month and a half. It's been a minute since we've had a big earthquake anywhere on the planet above 7.0. Here's a highway right next to this, but when you can see it out here, again, we're talking about very sparsely populated. Once you get beyond the mountains over here to the east, that's where you really start getting into lots of populated areas. So there it is, right there, central China, 7.4 quake. Now the other one, the 6 struck to the south, right next to the tip of our arrow. Zoom in and show it to you. Myanmar is on the south side of here. We've got the Myanmar border down here to the south. And then up here, of course, we are in China. So let me go pull the coordinates on the 6.1. It's listed as Dali, China. Okay. Never heard of the location. I've heard of the name Dali, but I don't know if that's the same. It can't be. Named after Salvador Dali. So let's just go in. Look where we are. We're right next to Tangshan volcanic complex from a long time ago. We go back to the Ice Age, to the Pleistocene for this, but it's a 600 square kilometer volcanic field. And 600 square kilometers, well, let's see, that's 200 in each, or well, 150 in each direction. Let's just measure and see how far we really are. Well, look, we're about 100 miles, and in kilometers, that is 166. So that is definitely on the edge of the volcanic field, which itself, let's go open the plate boundary map from the USGS. I want you to remember this map now. If you're a new viewer, you need to remember this. Where the red lines are the boundaries between plates. And on the inside edges of those plate boundaries between plates, we tend to see the earthquakes break off and go around the outside edges, following the red lines, basically. Now, in China, you see there's nothing right there in central China on the USGS map, but we've got the arrow there indicating which way we expect the energy to flow up and around over towards Nepal. Now, Nepal got hit previously just 2 days ago. I haven't been doing my updates, but if I had, you would have heard me get on and talk about this mid-range 5 right here next to Mount Everest. This is back to where that big earthquake struck, which itself was a mid-range 7. Several years ago, they caused just massive damage and caused the movement of Mount Everest itself by a few inches. It's like a lot of movement that happened years ago with that other mid-range to upper 7 that struck in Nepal. Now we're dealing with on the eastern side. Okay? Eastern side of the Himalayan range. So the flow is coming from back down here, and we can trace it all the way back over here to where our deep earthquakes are hammering in on the underside of the plate. And that gets me into the start of this broadcast. So the big one is just where we're starting with the report on the big quake, but earthquake update-wise, you can see the earthquakes that are raised high off the globe. These are our deep earthquakes, and the deep earthquakes usually lead to shallower, larger earthquakes. And now I need to take you back to the start of the week, where we had two other 6.7 range quakes. We had a 6.7 strike over here, and you see the stair-step fracture zone. It's going like a stair-steps down towards Chile and tip of South America. And over here you see where this 5.7 is. Well, 6 or 7 days ago, a 6.7 earthquake struck here. Let me get that on the feed so you can see it. We're going to look at the last 30-day USGS feed really quick. And that should bring the 6.7. There it is. So at the start of the week, 7 days ago, we have our 6.7 here at, again, the edge of the Indian Ocean, right there. And all the way over here, we have another 6.7. To top it all off, we had a 6.6 to 6.7 at the western tip of Sumatra, Indonesia. Now, which one struck first is the real question. On 5/14 at 6:33 UTC, that 6.6 to 6.7 struck on the coast of Sumatra here. Again, that's at let's get that the right date. 5/14 at 6:33. On 5/12 at 14:05, this 6.7 struck out here in the Indian Ocean. We're talking about 2 days apart, so that's really close in time. Got one out here on the red line and one here next to Sumatra. Now, wouldn't you really just say that's the western side of the Indo-Australian plate to begin with? Here and here. This is the Indo-Australian plate, India and Australia. 6.7 here, 6.7 over here. Then followed a few days later by our new 7.4 and other 6 up here on the plate boundary in China. So the whole west-northwest tip of the Indo-Australian plate has broken. Again, 6.7, 6.7, and a 7.4, all right in here. Now move all the way over here to the opposite side of the plate, and you see the stair-step fracture zone. That's where the other 6.7 struck. So really, we're moving on both sides of the Pacific. Where the center point, here, where Fiji is, that's where all that hammering action is coming in on the underside of the plate with the deep earthquakes. Now, let me show you a video for new viewers. That hammering action, what I think is going on down below the plates in the magma, coming up out of the asthenosphere, that there's a series of concentric waves that are coming in on the underside of the plate, up out of the magma itself. From the core of the Earth, VLF, very low frequency, but it focuses in on itself. It has nowhere to go, and it can't focus down into the fluid of the magma, so it focuses in up into the underside of the plate, and this hammering action begins, banging in on the underside of the plate. Then, as we start to bang in on the underside of the plates, first starts out as a few small ripples, where we get a few small earthquakes, all about the same size. Let's just say these are 4s spreading out equally across the plate boundary. Now, let's go back to the plate boundary map. The red line. Red lines. Think of these red lines like this tank containing the wave. Now, this is in a laboratory, of course. So, as one end of the tank or the other end or both ends push in towards each other and pull back out, these ends move. And as they pump, like an accordion, when somebody's playing an accordion, when they pump more energy into it, the waves get bigger. They don't get chaotic in the tank. They actually become organized in what's called a standing wave. As you pump more energy into the system, the waves get bigger or more powerful, more amplitude behind them. But what you'll see is that the spacing on these waves, the peak fills in the trough, or the top fills in the valley. And I can just park my mouse over the middle, and you can see the wave peak come up and touch the mouse tip, and just static, just place it right there in the middle. And each wave comes in and fills in the previous wave's middle point. Now, what I think is happening seismically is that when that hammering action is coming in with the deep quakes, it then spreads out following these red lines like the tank, and as more energy is pumped in here and over here, Indonesia, that's just like the ends of the wave tank. but it doesn't just stop at the end of the tank. The tank doesn't have really an end to it. It's more circular. Imagine a circular wave tank where the wave goes all the way around it. That's more like what's going on. It's going out and spreading away from where the hammering action's coming in on the underside of the plate. Now, I had to find this all out myself because when I tried to look it up or tried to talk to professionals, they all said there was no relation between any quakes, that deep earthquakes don't cause shallower, larger earthquakes. They said they basically denied everything that we found, including the spread of earthquakes like going across cratons, like in the United States, for instance. You see how the earthquakes are going down through Texas and up the East Coast? You see how that matches this craton diagram? It's like a perfect match, right? Well, it's been doing this for the last 10 years since I've been watching. I tried to show the professionals. They came after me and tried to get me shut down. I know. You guys, many of you already know the story, but we got to tell the new people that when you try to show the professionals something like this, and they said it previously couldn't happen, they end up trying to deny it instead of look into it. It's the craziest thing. Well, the spread of earthquakes has gone out and away, and now here we are. Again, we are going out and away over towards Asia, from where all of our deep earthquakes have happened over the past couple days. And this is a lot of activity. It really is. Again, when you start seeing multiple sets of deep quakes spanning one half of the planet, again, we're going from Indonesia all the way back to South America, and right in the middle is where the big bush is coming from. So I guarantee this caused damage in China. The only good news is that this quake was out in the middle of nowhere. Now, what does it mean overall for the rest of the plate? Let's get into that. So, with new deep earthquakes taking place today, they're in whitish color, and they're, again, raised high off the map. That means another round of large earthquake activity is getting ready to take place between our current sets of deep quakes. So, while this 7.4 is the result of the previous sets of deep quakes, which are marked in red here, let me get those on the screen. They're raised high off the globe and marked in a pinkish and a reddish color. Those were the previous deep quakes. Now we're dealing with a new set. Well, not just a set, a new cluster going across the whole Pacific, which means we're about to take another step up from where we were and are right now. So if we're at 6s and a 7.4 over in China, we're about to take another step up. We're about to go up to 8s. With all this deep earthquake activity. Again, if we're at 7.4 now with the previous sets, and we just added in a whole bunch across the whole Pacific, it's turning the dial up just a little bit more. Now we can look between our sets of deep quakes for where the big one is going to hit. Usually that's what happens, is next to where most of the deep earthquake activity is, next to it, coming up from it, that's where the big earthquake happens, and then it spreads out from there. So I'm going to look right next to the middle of this. Again, if this is the middle between here and here, where these earthquakes are, again, the deep earthquakes, that we would watch next to Fiji, going down through the Solomon Islands, going over to the west through the Solomon Islands, going down through the Kermadec, where this would be the middle of it next to New Caledonia. So we'd watch for an 8 to pop off there in the next 7 to 10 days from today, which puts us right to the end of the month. 10 days puts us right to the 31st. 7 days puts us to the 28th, 29th. So basically a week from today is what we watch for a next step up sized quake. Again, I hope I'm wrong, but with this, we've seen in the past with the multiple deep quakes, and we're already at 7.5 spreading out in a way, that we're pumping more energy into the system, which means another round of large earthquakes is coming. The middle points between our sets of quakes is where we watch. First, we watch between our middle points of our deep quakes. Then we watch between our middle points of our shallow quakes. And look how many there are. This is 48 hours worth of activity. And maybe I should just get all the smallers out of there. Hold on. There we go. So now we're looking at 4.9 and greater. I'll wait for it to refresh. There we are. That's a lot even for the last 2 days. Even 5.0 and greater, you can see where it's clustering. So it's clustering from Fiji all the way over to Solomon Islands and Papua New Guinea. Open area across South Indonesia, and then we're picking back up where the volcanoes are. Then going up to the north, same thing. It's all the same size, 4.95, 4.95, 4.95, spreading out and around. And we'll get into this in a second, what's going on down here. Going from our X's here across the arrow over to our X here. That's the south portion of the plate, but we're not there yet. We're still talking about the West Pacific. This is going to be a long update, by the way. I don't think there's any way around it. We still have a long way to go. I haven't even gotten to Europe or the United States yet. Still bringing you up to speed. So here's our 4.0 and greater, and all that did was fill in the middle points between the 5s. Remember, the middle points, that wave is spreading out. So think of the bottom of the wave as a 4. Think of the top of the wave as a 5. It could be flip-flopped or anywhere along the curvature of the wave, but whether it's at the peak or the bottom, it doesn't matter. We have 4s and 5s equally spreading, following the plate boundaries, following the red lines, out and away, over to the west, and up to the north, and over to the east, all the way across into South America. Same size, look. 5, 5.1, 4.9, another 4.9, another 4.9, and then smallers filling in the points in between. I said I was going to get into this. Look at that. Equal spread of pretty much the same size quakes within the magnitude of each other. On the eastern side, 5.7 and 5.5. On the western side, 5.1 and 4.9. Clearly, the Indian Ocean is moving more. And what's on the eastern side? Let's show you. Going all the way across here, following the red line from down here at the South Sandwich Islands, where we have our X's, all the way over to here. Like I said at the start of the broadcast, the Indo-Australian plate is the plate that's moving. Next to it, we're getting adjacent movement spreading out to China, spreading out down across the other way, down all the way down next to Antarctica. But think of it this way. How much energy do you think it would take to displace everywhere from Japan down to the south tip of South Africa and up to China? Oh, and back, of course, all the way to where it's going from here. And if you look at it this way, it's going across the other direction, and that's where we have our other deep earthquake. A deep 5. Down below Argentina, which is more rare, we normally get our activity right here, next to our letter D, where we expect deep earthquakes. It's just on the south side of there. Because there's a deep 5, I have to issue a warning right in the middle point between these out here in the ocean and these here on land. We have to go down across Chile and come back up that stair-step fracture zone. Let's show you. Down across Chile, back up the stair-step fracture zone. We have to find the halfway point going down, over, and up. What's the halfway point if we do that? I would say it brings us right in about here. Nevado State Chilean volcano and our travels underneath point. So that's going to break. And it's going to be a magnitude larger than the deep quake. And we already are dealing with a 6.7 coming across. I've used the analogy in the past of a train coming across a trestle or a bridge. And as the train's coming across, there's some vibration on the bridge, and of course, the longer and bigger and heavier the train is, the more vibration there's going to be on the bridge. And of course, the speed. But at the end of the bridge is a giant mountain the train is going to hit. And it's going to be derailed. Train versus mountain, who's going to win the battle? Right? The moving object is going to hit that solid object and try to go around it. Now, in this case, it goes down, around, and underneath. And that's why I've issued the new warning down right here, which is somewhat more rare. Normally, I would issue the warning down at the South Sandwich Islands, but this is the halfway point if we go up and around and between the sets of quakes. All 3 sets of quakes. So I just triangulated the halfway point here. We have Nevado State Chilean. That's where 6 is going to break. But we have a 3-way halfway point, or a 3-way meet point, between all 3 sets of quakes, which brings us right in down here. Again, if you were going down the fracture, up to these, and down and around and over to these, where would they all meet? It would meet right in there. So 6 up on the north side, bigger quake, could go even up to 7-ish, but I'll put it at upper 6. We're dealing with a 6.7 coming across. I would think something 6.7 or greater will strike down to the south and go around. Something great enough is pushing all of this over to the east. All of this over to the east. And it's coming from back over here. It's coming across, over, down, and over and back. A feedback loop. Another way to look at this is, you guys understand feedback loops, maybe? Or a standing wave that gets us back into this, the wave tank. Think of Jimi Hendrix playing his guitar on stage in front of an amplifier. He's got his electric guitar and he's holding it in front of a speaker system, starting to get feedback on the electric guitar. But what's really going on there? Well, technically, we're talking about a sound wave and electricity. And the electricity is traveling faster than the sound wave. And theoretically, you can, well, not just theoretically, you can do this with the guitar or any kind of standing wave or electricity, that you can build up, and that standing wave forms in the amplifier system. And you're pumping both ends, and it starts to build, and you guys have heard a microphone get next to a speaker, and you start to get that squeaking feedback, right? Now, if you keep the microphone there instead of turning down the volume or moving it, it's in that magnetic field. The sound is going through the system at the speed of light. It's coming back out the speaker, and before it can make it back away through its system again, it's going to start to build up in the amplifier. Eventually it'll blow. Either the speaker blow or the amp will blow as you pump more amplitude into the system, sound system. Again, Jimi Hendrix playing his guitar, and it starts getting the feedback. Well, you start pumping more energy into the system on the planet, and it basically is acting like the giant vibrating speaker. And you can get a feedback loop where it comes back and adds in to the system and comes back out and goes through the system again. Feedback loop, standing wave. Okay? I'm just trying to put it in simple terms that people can understand. So when you start pumping more energy into the system across the system here, that when it spreads out, it can come back to itself. It gets into the antipodes, the opposite sides of the planet, just like two vibrating speakers feeding into each other. Speaking of antipodes, anybody watch General Hospital? The soap opera? Oh, man. I don't know. Art imitating life? Is that what it is? I don't know. The guy's named Yuri, and he's talking about antipodes. I don't know. I don't watch soaps. I got contacted by a viewer who does. They said, hey, I'm watching General Hospital. They have a new character on here called Yuri. And he's some kind of hands-on bodyguard. Real handsome, deep voice, too. Real nice, deep voice. The guy's, oh, man, he's a dream, dude. I'm not into dudes, but, man, I'll tell you what. Guys look good looking. And long story short, this guy's talking about antipodes. I don't know. A character named Yuri talking about antipodes. Get a little weird. I love it. Okay, anyway, yeah, go watch General Hospital. Soaps are great, man. Now, let's get over to Europe, because now that this 7.4 earthquake has struck in China, we have to warn downstream. Think of this like a giant deluge of water coming off a giant storm. And you live along the river downstream, the red line. Look which way it goes. It goes over across, down through Pakistan, over to the west across Iran, over to Turkey, Greece, Italy, South Europe, South Spain, and out to the mid-Atlantic ridge. This is a big enough push coming across right now that within the week, we should see major earthquake activity in South Europe, as well as the Middle East. Now, I don't know how many viewers or even how many people live over here where the rings overlap right at the Pakistan, Afghanistan, eastern Iran border. But USGS has that plate boundary right there. Here's Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan. Right in here, we've got, again, a big storm dumping a lot of water on a river, and it's going to flow and flood downstream. So you're the first stop where the rivers come together. Now, you see this number 7 shape bend out here. This is the Carlsberg Ridge. Goes up into South Iran and over to the west. Goes again across over into Yemen, Red Sea. They all come back together in Turkey and Europe. But this number 7 shape bend is being inundated with other force coming up out of the Indian Ocean. We've already talked about that several times in this update. That the western portion of the Indian Ocean and southern portion is really moving. It's all stemming back from where it's being pushed. It's pushing out and away. So if it's being pushed from over here and it's going out and away, it's spreading out over to here. And on the way, new large quake should strike along the way. So South Iran, Pakistan, Afghanistan border region. I'm going to put it for a magnitude less. I would expect about a magnitude's worth of energy to be absorbed into the whole plate and dropping off smaller earthquakes along the way. So if we have a 7.4 in China, the good news is that it would be something like mid-range 6. Not that that's good news. It's still enough to cause major damage. Mid-range 6 coming into the Mideast very soon, where all 3 sets of rings overlap. Oh, 1 second, guys. Sorry, I had a little cough there. Let me get a sip of my coffee. So over to the west, now that we're going to warn here for a 6.5, I would warn for a low end 6 to come in here between Crete and Cyprus, right next to the Isle of Rhodes. This is Turkey here on the eastern side. This is Greece over here on the western side. The Isle of Crete is right here, and Isle of Cyprus is right here. Rhodes is pretty much in between the two, right where this little 2.2 earthquake is, right next to it. That's where we're going to warn. So watch out for near 6.0 level activity. Could be a little bit bigger or a little bit under. It could be in the upper 5 level, but it's still enough to cause damage and get your attention big time. And I want you to know where it's coming from. You shouldn't be caught off guard at all by the spread that happens this week. Again, when we start dealing with the largest earthquake in years in Asia, I don't want you to be caught off guard with a large earthquake in Europe following that. Or the Middle East. Again, I don't know how many viewers I've got over here, but however many, even if there's just one person that gets the message, they can then get the warnings out over there in the appropriate language and in a way that people will accept it. But watch for it to come your way. That's what the arrows are on the map here for right now. One thing the last 3 weeks has proved to me when I'm not here, look, the arrows work. You can watch the flow spread following these arrows. Now, a lot of the arrows are following the red lines that I've been showing you here. But you'll see many of my arrows are not on matching the USGS map at all. It's because our arrows are also mimicking the craton edges, not just the plate boundaries. So while the USGS has their red lines on their map here, what they really need is an additional series of red dotted lines that go around and mark the edges of the different cratons. And those are like the side streets off the highway. But the flow is still the same. You start getting backed up in traffic, the flow is going to be going around the side streets. And that's what's happening here in Iran, for instance. In South Iran, USGS has that red line, the plate boundary map, here. But on the north side of Iran, they don't have anything. Well, look what's going on. Mid-range 4 level activity going around that outside edge. And it's pulling back up here where now we're having a swarm outbreak take place between the Aegean Sea and over to Turkey. Now, a few days ago, there was some significant activity over here in Central Europe. A 4-point-something earthquake struck right next to Norcia. But now, Mount Stromboli, down to the south, pretty much where the two rings, sets of red rings overlap here. It's in the back end of this little red line here, where the arrow is. Stromboli started blowing its top with huge explosions that made the news. It's very rare for that volcano to make the news, and people started posting videos yesterday of it. It's really incredible looking. Over to the west, in the middle of the tip of our arrow at Morocco, we have a new 4.0 swarm outbreak. Now let me show you what's at Morocco. Look, the red line. Here's Morocco, here's the red line. Gibraltar's right there, and the energy's flowing across. So we get a 4 over here in Italy, and look what we get down in Morocco. The exact same size, 4 to 4.1. So 4 over in central Italy, following the plate boundary up through Italy, the red line in Italy. But it dead ends. The red line dead ends into South Switzerland or North Italy, doesn't it? Between Turin and Milan, that's where the red line dead ends. Well, that's where the earthquakes went. Then the English Channel got hit, which I don't even think the USGS reported it. Europeans did. English Channel started to move up here in North France. Or no, I'm sorry. The UK started to move, not the English Channel. It was in England itself. Or Britain, sorry. I'm an American. We can call you England. They get all offended. Yeah, they're from Wales. You're like, this is England. They're like, I can't understand what they're saying, but, come on, it's hilarious. Okay. Oh, no, it's not hilarious. I'm sorry. 1,000-year war between peoples. Who cares, That's why we came over here to the United States. We're turning on the BGS, British Geological Survey. I say, old boy, Royal Society of Seismic Nerds. Let's go see what we have. Do they even have the earthquake on here? Refresh. Is the BGS feed even working? Probably isn't. They probably updated their feed. Come on now. As we say here in the States, y'all. Come on now. Get her done. It's not there. Okay, so it is not there. BGS 0.0 and greater feeds just is stopped working. I guess they switched or something. Let's get back into it now. Let's look at the last, let's see, make sure we have the last 7-day feed turned on. and tell people what to watch for in Western Europe and out to the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. If we're going to be getting 6.0 level activity down in Greece, that means swarm activity is going to be coming to Spain. So South Spain should get the same sized activity that we're seeing right now in Morocco. And you guys may remember when we were on land here in Spain a few weeks back, when that 4.0 range earthquake struck with swarm, it actually caused damage, knocked facades off buildings. And the only reason I think it's doing that, the landscape here is very mountainous. We have, of course, Gibraltar. It's very rocky. And you start getting even 4.0 level activity in an area that's a lot of bedrock without any, well, there is some soil levels, but very shallow soil levels. You start getting major shaking in that very rigid material. And I think that's why we got a lot of damage that last time. Canary Islands started to move as well, letting us know something's coming out towards the Azores. So the Azores is going to get hit, as well as Iceland. Look, I told you this is going to be a long update. Azores is out here, right at the T intersection. Think of this like that flowing river that I told you. And right here, you have a T intersection for the river to split two ways. Now, down to the south, you can see it has to make a bend around. Up to the north, it's got a pretty much straight shot. It gets right up to here, and we start seeing earthquake activity break out right where the stair-step path is, and then we get up to Iceland and where the other stair-step path is. That's where the two other breaks start to take place. So here, here, and here. As we go further to the north, up next to Svalbard is the next stair-step fracture zone, and then up next to here's Svalbard, Here's Jan Mayen. Jan Mayen, Svalbard. Where the stair-step fracture zones are, that's where we tend to see our big breakouts. Because the energy's trying to flow around. Again, so when it tries to flow around something and it's got too steep of a bend, it breaks. Pretty simple. Let's jump over to the United States, Alaska, Hawaii, Central America, Northern South America, and get into that. First of all, Hawaii. Look, my last update, I didn't save it over on YouTube. By the way, if you're watching on YouTube, you are watching something pre-recorded over here live on Twitch. I got hundreds of people on Twitch watching right now. I'll give you a link so you can come over and watch. We're streaming 24/7, 365 on Twitch with earthquakes. But, so, I did an update, a week ago. Didn't save it, but did it for the live audience on Twitch. Focused in on Hawaii and the previous earthquakes that were there, with just a handful. And we issued the warning for a new swarm outbreak going up to mid-range 3 level, right below 4. And where are we? We're at mid-range 3. 3.2 to 3.5 plus a swarm. And it broke out at Pahala along the coast. So why though? Well, Pahala is right on the edge of the Middle East Rift Zone, which itself is on the edge of the area that broke apart. Over here is Hawaii, the big island. Here's Mauna Loa. Here's Kilauea. Down here is Pahala along the coast. Now, out off in the ocean, we have Loihi, which is an undersea mount volcano. It's about 3,000 feet below the surface of the ocean. It will eventually rise up out and become a new part of the big island, or a new island in its own right, depending on how big the lava flow is. Could come back over here and connect to the mainland, and you could see it just carry on out off the big island, but it could form its own island out here someday. So this is rising. Over here is the Middle East Rift Zone. It collapsed last year. It collapsed and drained down. When it drained down, the Middle East Rift Zone actually settled and formed a giant, well, you could call it a sinkhole, but it's bigger than that, a pit in the ground, thousands of feet deep and thousands of feet across, where the crater and caldera used to be. It then filled with magma, 6 months ago, and since then it's been filling and steadily filling basically every day, but not overflowing. So it's maintaining a steady level, maybe slightly rising every week out here at Kilauea. So that is the main player. The Middle East Rift Zone here is pushing up. Now, it's refilling. It did collapse. It was more of a depression. Now it's starting to rise. As it's rising, it's refilling. As it's refilling, the crater lake is, of course, filling up as well. The earthquakes are going around the outside edge of it. Around the outside edge of the Middle East Rift Zone. So over to Mauna Loa, down to Loihi. And that's what led me to issue the new warning. We started to see a breakout of quakes across half the big island, and you look down to the middle of it all. Now, does that mean there's going to be an eruption? No, but it also doesn't rule one out. I'm not here to issue warnings for eruptions. I watch the seismic. If there's a seismic increase, then we watch for volcanic increase. Right now, we're going through seismic increase. But why? Well, our deep earthquakes, and when I issued the warning for Hawaii, I based it on the 50,000 foot high blast that happened over here in the West Pacific. So we saw big blast activity over here in the West Pacific at Mount Semeru, and then that's what then prompted me to issue the warning for a spread of seismic activity to come to the other volcanoes. Oh, we also have to talk about this, where the rings were overlapping up here, South Japan, Sakurajima and Suwanizajima both erupting, where the rings overlap up here. We have eruptions at Mount Shivalush and Mount Ebeko. And I haven't even checked the Volcanic Ash Advisory Center list for today. For crying out loud, this is the magnum opus update. Let's go see what's going on. Dukono in Indonesia. Seismopochnoi not provided. What is going on there? How big of a blast is this? Seismopochnoi. Novatos de Chilean. Unable to detect. Sure have a lot of unable to detect. Manam in Papua New Guinea. Reventador. We also had a 35,000 foot high blast over in Ecuador yesterday. Well, man, I need to find out how big this Seismopochnoi blast is, because they're sure taking they're making an effort to not tell us what the size of the blast is in the warning. So I got to see for myself and go down the list. Why would they not be telling us? Not provided, not provided, not provided. I don't get it. I don't understand what I'm looking at. Periodic low-level eruption. Why all this talk if it's such a low-level eruption? 10,000 foot high blast. Low level. Okay. Whatever you say, Jeeves. I say, old boy. Royal Society of Volcanic Experts says blah, 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 blah. Never mind. So Hawaii is moving as a result of the push that's taking place on the volcanoes, hence our multiple large blasts this past week. Again, we're dealing with a 50,000 foot high blast over here and a 35,000 foot high blast over here. It's not like we're dealing with that every week. So Reventador and Sanjay over here on one side and all the way over here on the other. But again, that just mimics the seismic. So that's why Hawaii's moving. Again, it's smack in the middle of it all. Now, up into Alaska we go, and this previous week we had issued the warning south of Anchorage. So let's just go in and take a quick look and see what happened over the last 7 days. Wow, fair amount of activity came rolling in, but Anchorage did not get hit. We came in south on the plate boundary down here with a 4.5. I was looking for a 5.5. So a full magnitude under coming into North America on the edge of the North American craton. So if we're a magnitude under up here to the north, wouldn't that put us a magnitude under across the board in the United States? Yep. That's exactly what happened. So when I did my update several days ago, we were looking for 5s to strike off the coast and upper 4s to come down into Southern California. And what happened? A lower 4 came into Central California, and 3s came in down to the south. Mid-range 3s. So it's just a hair off from what we were looking for, but it's a perfect match. Now, the way I really want you to look at this is we get a 4.1 off the coast marked in red, followed within a couple days by a 4 over at the supervolcano at the California-Nevada border right at our arrow. And then the flow went across, following the arrow, over to Texas and up the east coast to Ontario, Quebec, right at the border of Ontario, Quebec, Vermont, New Hampshire border. Craton edge, guys. So I have to keep the craton diagram on there for a minute so you can understand the flow that goes from the west coast all the way to the east coast. Many people contacting me about the 4 that struck up here asking what's going on there. Well, you guys remember the other earthquake that struck a little bit further to the north a couple years ago, don't you? A 5-ish earthquake struck up here, dislodged a glacier, which made a tsunami that went in and washed out a Greenland town. I don't know if there were fatalities, but I know there were injuries. It was unexpected. Man, when that kind of stuff happens, again, it's like a landslide, but with ice. Now look at the spread of quakes, though, and even the untrained eye, somebody who's never seen this before, should be able to make out that we have a big cluster over on the west coast, 3s and 4s. Then we take a step down. Let's wait for this to refresh. Then we take a step down to 2s and 1s as we go across the rest of the plate. But it's a perfect match to the diagram. Outside edge of the plate. So what's going on? It's just like the rest of the planet. There's a flow taking place, a path of least resistance. So it's like water flowing around an object. So the flood analogy comes in again. And instead of going brute force through the center of the craton, it goes around the outside edge, down across through Colorado. It goes down out of the west-northwest. Turn down the rings and show it to you this way. There we go. This is 7 days worth of quakes. So you see up here in Washington and Oregon, going over to Idaho, Montana, down across Utah, kind of making like a U shape here. It's almost like an arrow. And those are following our arrows. Those earthquakes are following our arrows perfectly. The arrows have been on here for years. It's the way the energy flows. So it builds on the west coast, goes over to the craton edge, then goes down and around it. And it stays going down and around it, goes back up through Oklahoma, and gets caught up in the N-shaped bend of the New Madrid seismic zone here, which is like a steep curve that makes a U-shaped bend down through the south. Let me show it to you here on the Google Earth imagery. And let me turn off all these dang place marks. We've got 10,000 of them on the screen, getting in the way of everything. There we are. Now, pick your favorite state just as a point of reference, but just remember this diagram. Now, let's go and turn off the borders and labels. Here is the N-shaped bend of the New Madrid seismic zone. Here's St. Louis, Missouri. Right here, St. Louis. New Madrid is right down here in the middle of this. Now, you see how it makes a U-shaped bend through the south, doesn't it? And it goes back up the east coast. All the way where it pulls back up here, goes out to the split. Goes out and out into Nova Scotia, Newfoundland. Now that looks like it's been dredged by humans or something. No, that's a split in the plate on the craton up to the northeast. So now hold up. Look, a line of quakes goes directly along it over the past several days. Do you think that's a coincidence? It's not. And I tried to show this to the professionals and they laughed and mocked and ridiculed me and said there's no relation. They said it was chance. Yeah, that's real scientific. The old quarter toss experiment from the Royal Society of Quarter Tossers. Odds and probabilities. You like my impersonation of that? That's my impersonation of my critics. That's all they sound like. It's kind of like a fast Charlie Brown teacher sound when I hear my critics. Okay, let's go on. Let's turn on the last days worth of earthquakes. 0.0 and greater over the last day. 24 hours. So all this will do is actually remove a few, make it a little easier to see. We don't need to look at the whole week. But even then, you can still see there's a perfect line of quakes going across the United States, going from southwest Texas through Oklahoma, through the New Madrid seismic zone, right up here to the Ohio border with West Virginia. Doesn't that match this? Aren't they all about the same size? Yeah, and these earthquakes down here, Texas going up into Oklahoma, these sets, again, Texas, Oklahoma, drill points, oil and gas. The New Madrid seismic zone, though, there's no drill point there. Strictly in the middle of the New Madrid, right next to the town of New Madrid. And then up here to the east by northeast. We need to go up into Ohio. Go see what's going on at Athalia, Ohio. I just need to check. It's a 20-kilometer depth, so it's pretty deep. I have not looked this location up before. This is a live lookup. So I just need to go see if there's anything of any significance there at all. There might not be, there might be, who knows? Only the shadow knows. Who knows what lies in the hearts of men? Okay, wait, there we are. So it looks like we have some housing out here. They may have felt the earthquake. But what I'm looking for are more like drill points. And you might think, oh, Ohio, drill points, what? Well, they started doing fracking here a few years ago. Now, I don't know if they're going to be doing fracking now. Let's go in and take a look. There's a power substation. Oh, wait. Look at the size of these power lines they've got there. We're talking massive tower. Huge power lines. My goodness. Okay, guys, we've seen it in the past where earthquakes strike right next to these huge power line setups. And again, look how it branches. Look how these power lines all converge. You see the lines here. They come in this way. They're all converging right down into, well, down to here. It happens enough that we start to get a little worried. People, not just me, myself, and many others have been watching. It starts to get a little worrisome how many earthquakes are striking next to these large transmission lines for power transmission. And people tried to tell me they were everywhere. Oh, there's power transmission lines everywhere. No, these aren't the power lines that go to your house. I'm talking about the power lines that feed a city. So there we go, all right. Big earthquake striking there. No drill points there, that's good. At least none in the nearby vicinity. Now, we can check within 6 to 10 miles and look for drill points, but that's going to take several. Again, we'd be talking about looking for hours trying to find any oil or gas drill points out here. They are so small in comparison. They look like a house. Like here's a silo for a farm. Okay? But that's not, again, that's for farming. Or is it? God only knows. Okay, let's carry on. So a line of quakes going across the United States. This is 24 hours now. We're not talking about some long time period. Going from Texas across the drill points. We already know those are all drill points down in Texas. What about the West Coast? That's where all this is coming from. All the energy that's going across the United States, up to Quebec with the 3 and 3s down in Texas. All that activity is coming from the 4s on the West Coast. But it's not that the 4s cause the 3s any more than this wave is causing this wave. It's that all the waves in the tank are being caused by a pushing motion, and they're all about the same size. And then as the wave spreads through the tank, it loses a little energy. The more it spreads out, it drops a magnitude. It goes from 4s down to 3s as it goes across the plate. But that's not really that much loss of energy to go from a 4 down to a 3 across the plate. But again, it's not that the 4s are causing the 3s to go across the plate. It's that the 4s and the 3s going across the plate are all caused by the push of the Pacific. So how is that happening? Let's go in and show it to you on the USGS map. Here is the Juan de Fuca fracture zone. It's a zigzag stair-step fracture zone. But out here, the Juan de Fuca edges belong to the Pacific plate. So when the Pacific is moving, energy comes into these jagged edges and then pushes into North America. Goes through this little section or sliver of the plate. Pushes in and up into North America. And we can go over and look at the Tremor map from the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network. There's 15 little tremors, little vibrations. They do have magnitudes assigned to them, but it's not really breaking in the plate. It's vibrating as the plate is slightly shifting next to Portland. Could even be man-made activity with that low of amount of activity. But let's go back a few days. Let's go back to the 19th. 0. Yeah, that's not right. System must have been out. 18th. 0. Yeah, system's down. There's no way. Do you think plates stop moving completely for days on end? Please. So we get back to the 17th, the last day before the system went down or whatever, and they have 70 of them. And look where they are. Well, I'll be darned right. They're right next to where that 4-point-something earthquake struck out in the ocean. And that 4-point-something earthquake out in the ocean is really just on the southern arm of the Juan de Fuca, which is pointing in like an arrow to the spot that's shifting. So think of this. This is down below this. This is down, of course, the sea floor, but down below that, it's pushing up and into North America at an angle. So this is rising, and this is pushing in and up. And we get vibration as that happens. The more it pushes in and up, the more vibration that happens, the more that goes across the plate. Dropping off the 4 at the California-Nevada border, for instance. Let's go show you what's at the California-Nevada border. And, well, let's show you what's at all of these locations. Let's start over here, over on the West Coast. Let's go into Washington. Washington? Negative 2.5 kilometer depth. How could we be up in the air? Well, we're not. It's not an airquake. It's not a skyquake. There's no such thing. Well, actually there is, but long story. We're right up in the inside part of Mount Rainier. We're up above sea level inside the volcano. It doesn't mean that there's going to be an eruption, but we're right on the flank of Mount Rainier. Slight perturbance taking place. What about this 1.2 over here? Bucota, Washington. I've never heard of it, but it's at 54-kilometer depth. We're right down below the south part of the Puget Sound, going down towards Tacoma. Let's go and take a look and see what's there. Oh, well, hey, there's nothing to see here. There's nothing to see there. It's just, the only spot where we've got to clear out of high voltage power lines for miles on end. Over to the east, we hardly have any. One over to the west, this is the big spot. High voltage power lines again. And electrical substation right there. So clearly there's some electrical connection between the quakes. There is. Let's go. Oh, whoa, an explosion. Hey, you know what's weird? Once we cross over the border here, everything that would be an earthquake gets listed as an explosion. It's a way to keep the numbers padded so that there's no earthquakes of any significant size or even small size in Oregon at all. Imagine it like this. They're paranoid of storms for some reason in Oregon. They don't want to have rain on the list. Maybe it'll affect property values. Rumors gotten out it rains too much in Oregon or something. So to get rid of the rain reports, they start calling it man-made misting or something. And they blame a plane flying over spraying something. And they do that for almost every storm. So that there's never any reported rain across the whole state of Oregon. Wouldn't you start to get suspicious after a while? And guess what? When you say something, then they put an earthquake on the feed, like it's normal or something. So an explosion out here in Oregon. Wishram. Let's go see. There could be a quarry there. They seem to be doing very much better at placing these fake earthquakes. They're fake quakes. Fake quakes. Placing these fake quakes over here next to spots that make sense, like, a quarry or something. They got it somewhat right, but they're off by a few miles. They do have a quarry over here on the other side of the river. But wait a second. Aren't we over here right next to a bunch of hot spots that happen? Mount Hood and the others? We are. You're supposed to ignore that and just think that it's an explosion. Hey, wait a second. Do we have some kind of large electrical generation going on here? Oh, I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen anything this big before when it comes to electrical Look at that. Like next to a nuclear power plant level of electrical generation on that. That is crazy. Yeah, it's an explosion, Dutch. Never mind all the thousands of other explosions that only happen in Oregon. Across all 50 states, there's no explosions. And then Oregon, the only place with explosions. You guys are drawing more attention to yourself doing that. Did you know that? People in Oregon and people at the USGS, whoever's doing this, you're drawing, Department of Defense, military, you guys are drawing more attention to yourselves by labeling them as explosions instead of just listing them as small earthquakes. To try and hide it with that is making it look more suspicious. Like there's something really bad going on. And I don't think anything really bad is going on, except for the hiding of quakes, to protect property values from some perceived threat of potential loss that happened because of what happened back in 2015. If you don't know what happened in 2015, a volcano erupted out here in the ocean, hundreds of miles out in the ocean. Not a big deal. I even said it in my video. I'm like, not that big of a deal. It's really cool to talk about. Out here at the axial seamount, this thing erupted. Here, let me zoom in. This. And it made the news, and there was some seismic activity associated with it. We focused on it on this channel. But all of a sudden, the mainstream media got a hold of it. And you know what happens when they get a hold of something? Oh man, they tear it apart and try to make everybody scared. So all of a sudden, big threat of a 9.0 earthquake and tsunami building out here all of a sudden. Even the professionals got in on it. They put out stories saying there was going to be a 9.0 earthquake up here, which there will be someday. But they said it was imminent. And that everything west of the I-5 would be destroyed. Everything west of the highway here. Wait, I don't even know where the highway is. Hold on, let's see. 205? Yeah, here's the 5. They said everything west of here would be completely annihilated. Wiped out is what they said. Everything west of the I-5. They put that out in a story, and then they wonder why the property values went down by billions of dollars and people started selling huge swaths of land that they owned here along the coast. It's 2015. Right after that, all of a sudden, the earthquakes became explosions, and it hasn't changed since. I can complain about it all I want, but it's probably some governor directive or something. Oh my God, hold on. Another little cough. Okay, I get another sip of my drink here. Okay, let's go look up the rest of the quakes. So, an explosion in Oregon. Yeah, what's new? Mount Rainier is moving. Up in Washington. This cluster of quakes here in central Idaho is actually above the magma chamber for Yellowstone. Yellowstone is over here, right on the Craton edge, of course. Do you think that's a coincidence? That the only supervolcano in the United States formed on the edge of the Craton? The other unknown supervolcano formed at the other side over at the California-Nevada border, where the 4 struck. The 4.0 earthquake struck that I was talking about a few minutes ago. So look at the Craton diagram, look at the purple part. It goes over to Idaho, doesn't it? And it goes down to the California-Nevada border. That's where the supervolcanoes are, on the edge of both sides of the purple part. And the earthquakes here in Idaho are above the deepest part of the magma chamber for Yellowstone. Yellowstone goes down at an angle from the park here down below all of Idaho and has a feeder for the magma chamber coming from below Oregon. Now, word has reached me that the professionals have weighed in on something. Let's go up here and just talk about this. All right, this. First of all, it's surrounded by hotspots. But the professionals have weighed in on this thing. I don't know why. I was gone for 2-3 weeks. But imagine my shock when I come in and I see that my viewers are talking about 2 oval shapes, one in Oregon, one down here in California, and how the professionals have weighed in and tried to deny that they're related to volcanism. Trying to blame this on a meteorite. Same with this one down here, between Lake Tahoe and Pyramid Lake. This thing. Oh wait, I guess I need to turn off our borders and labels and roads. This thing. They're trying to blame that and this on glaciers. Now, I have some bad news for everybody. I hate to break it to you, but the professionals blame all of our formations on glaciers. They blame the Craton shape on glaciers, overlooking the fact that 200 million years ago, 200 million years ago their time, 200 million years ago, that the ancient shorelines of the whole North American plate matched the Craton edge. It didn't form with glaciers. That's hogwash, and anybody who says that is completely wrong. Again, it matches the Cambrian edge of the plate. Yeah, that was long before the Ice Age, guys. No, the glaciers went down to the edge of what the plate was. That's what it is. It's not that the plate was formed by the glaciers. The glaciers were formed by the plate, you bloomin' morons. The glacier shape was dictated by the plates, not vice versa. My God. Ugh. Okay. Sorry. Get a little worked up. Geeking out a little bit on geophysics too hard. How dare you? This is the Royal Society of Dutch now. How dare you? Let's go into California and the West Coast. Let's get back down to business here. Let's go look up the rest of the quakes. Starting up here in North California, northeast tip of Sacramento Valley. Round Mountain, California. Hey, that's not an explosion. They can somehow manage to list things not as explosions once you get out of Oregon all of a sudden. I'm telling you, man, funny business going up on in there. Y'all got some funny business up in there. Here in Missouri, whoa, wait, look at all the hotspots. All of California lit up with hotspots as of yesterday. May 20th, yep. All of California, the valley. Oh, wait, we have a new hotspot, and look what we have. We have power lines right there. This is the power lines. Look at how many there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sets of high voltage power lines. Not just one. And that's where the hotspot is. And that's where the earthquake is. Let's hit search again. Yeah, look, we're right next to it. Within just a hop, skip, and a jump of the hotspot and the power lines and the volcanic field on the edge of. That's where this 2.0 earthquake is. Now wait, over here we have a 1.9, basically the same size. Sparks, Nevada. Oh my God, what a name. Somebody's playing some games. USGS totally knows. They gotta know. How could they not know at this point? We're telling them. I've been telling you for years. How could they not know? What a joke. Sparks. What is here? What's up at the top of this hill? Oh. Oh my God. Is this what I think it is? Is that a Vortac radar or is that a VLF? Hold on. That might be for aircraft. Again, that might be like a TDWR. Ah, man. Look, it's got all the other subs around it. Do we have anything? Let's see if we got any photos. Any names or anything? Let's turn on the gallery. Any street levels? All the way down here. Let's go see what it looks like down here. What is that? What is that right there? What the hell? How did they even get a car? Why did they even get a car out there in the desert? What is this place? A motorsports park. A motorsports park? That's how they got it out there. We got a quarry there nearby, but it's not a quarry blast, is it? What else do we have here? A chevron. Isn't that wonderful? Okay. This broadcast brought to you by Halliburton. All right. Halliburton, guys. Come on, man. Now let's turn off the gallery and go show you really where this quake is. This is Lake Tahoe and Pyramid Lake. The 1.9 is on the edge of the supervolcano. Let me bring this back due north and show it to you. Here is Lake Tahoe. Here is Pyramid Lake. And in between them is this giant oval shape that's lined with volcanoes all the way around the outside edge. And it gets hit with earthquakes all around the outside edge going into the middle. We've also seen hot spots appear all the way around the outside edge and go into the middle of this. And we've seen actual fires break out around the outside edge of this and go into the middle of it. It's my contention, this wasn't formed by glaciers. There's one down to the south that's the same size and shape. And look, we have hot spots in there from yesterday. In the middle of, or from today, in the middle of the crater, Long Valley Caldera, confirmed supervolcano. It's just a little smaller. This oval shape, lined with volcanoes, hit with earthquakes around the outside edge and in the middle, and hit with hotspots around the outside edge in the middle. It's just like this one up here to the north, but this one's bigger. It has two folds or basins on either side. And to top it all off, on either side of this oval shape, we have Steamboat Springs, geothermal pumping operation, major steam being taken out of the ground here to pump these turbines. And on the north side, about the same distance up here, are the Needles at Pyramid Lake. Tufa deposits formed by the geothermal fields that are here. Hot pools and flowing hot springs that are there. So on both sides of this giant oval shape, we've got geothermal fields. On both sides, we have folds or deep basins filled with water. And, of course, the oval shape telling us. Now, people reported to me. I imagine my shock in chat yesterday when I see people talking about bubbles that are appearing in Lake Tahoe. And they're wondering where they're coming from. But then the professionals came out with a cover story telling us that they placed bubblers all across Lake Tahoe to control some kind of invasive species. We need to put the bubblers out there in the water. Yeah, right. How about this? A bunch of bubbles started to appear. Somebody contacted somebody, conservation department, whatever, and they came up with a cover story of placing bubblers out there in Lake Tahoe to control some shit. Pardon my language, but that is exactly what it is. BS. Now let's go over to the west. What could it be? Well, hey, how about this? We have hotspots around this thing. It's a supervolcano. It's getting hit with earthquakes, and the plate just shifted. What could cause bubbles to appear? About the same thing that causes the bubbles to appear up here at Yellowstone, across the whole lake. or through the Firehole River. The whole river, slightly bubbling, effervescence. Soda Springs, sort of like. Soda Springs, sort of like. Let's go down to the geysers. Why are we going to the geysers? That is where this stack of earthquakes is. Clear Lake volcano at the geysers of California. So the other stack of quakes in Northern California is at another volcano. Do we deny that this is related to the volcano? There's probably some egghead out there that will, but we don't care what they think. Their denials don't mean anything when you have visual proof of the earthquake swarm happening on the side of a geothermal drill point that's on the side of a volcanic field called Clear Lake. And when it happens every day that way. Every day of every week, of every month, for every year, since I've been keeping watch. Now down along the coast, we have a series of twos, same size, 2.2 and 2.2. Both are on the creeping section of the San Andreas that starts, they call this the creeping section. It is to the east of Monterey Bay, and it goes down here and just basically putters out right at a place called Parkfield, California. Now wait, let's just show it to you on the red line map here. The red lines that I've been showing you the whole update go all the way around the planet, right? Well, they come into California here off the Juan to Fuca. Everybody calls it the San Andreas, but really it's just a crack in the plate, starts at the surface, just like the rest of the planet. Boundary between plates, between the Pacific and North America Laurentia. And the creeping section right through here, see how it says San Andreas Fault Zone, creeping section, Bear Valley Fault? The earthquakes come in and go right down the San Andreas, but they get down to Parkfield and stop, but don't cease. They jump off the San Andreas. At this point, I'm getting ready to show you. Why are we jumping off the San Andreas? Why don't we just carry on down it? If it's a flowing river, why wouldn't you just carry on down the river? Well, a series of lock and dams, misdirect points, a flow around point has been created. At this point, this is the San Andreas. Right next to here. Over here, tens of thousands of drill points. All oil and gas. And they perforated the heck out of this. All the way up. Every little black spot on the ground is a different oil well. And all the way down. And all the way down. We keep going all the way down the range. All of this has been drilled. And I'm not joking. Tens of thousands of times. Hundreds of thousands of times once you include in all of these mountain ranges down to the south that they drilled. It looks like sand dunes, doesn't it? Every one of these is a different oil well. And this is what it looks like now. Let me find what it used to look like. This is what it used to look like. It used to look like this. And they came in, scraped out every hilltop, and put at least one or two oil wells on every scrape out point. And they did the whole mountain range, this whole thing. And that's just this mountain range. They did this is the San Andreas again, and they did right up to it tens of thousands of more drill points. So, earthquakes come down, San Andreas, get to where the drill points start, and they jump over to the drill points like a perforation in a piece of stone. Then they flow, the earthquakes, the seismic force, flows down to the south tip of the valley and strikes down here, down next to Ridgecrest, the Garlock Fault, going into Fraser Park, right across here. Let me show it to you another way. Over to the USGS map one more time we go. Energy is flowing down the San Andreas, jumps over to the drill points, goes down to the south tip of the valley. Look what it runs into. Runs into one of the only east and west faults for 100 miles in each direction, or 200 miles in each direction. That's the Garlock. Ridgecrest and China Lake are right here. A bunch of volcanoes are right in there too. And the earthquakes, that's where they are, over here. So this line of quakes here has carried on every day for the last almost 2 years since our big earthquake struck here, breaking the Owens Valley apart and China Lake. Let me show it to you on the map. This is China Lake. Ridgecrest is right here. And these are all volcanoes. And the earthquakes start right up in here at the geothermal pumping operations where they drilled into the volcano. Boy, where have I heard that before in this update? Again, that's no exaggeration. I'm going to pull the coordinates. Look, see how it says Kozo Junction from the USGS? Why don't they add Kozo Volcanic Field onto that? It's like they don't want you to know. I swear. They don't mark the volcanic fields or keep track of volcanic features. Look where the earthquake coordinates are taking us. Between two rising obsidian domes, you see this here. This same thing just happened down in La Soufriere volcano down in the Caribbean. These rising lava domes that eventually they blow. But humans here have tapped in to get the geothermal out of Kozo volcanic field. And that's where the earthquakes start. And then we go down in a diagonal line and we dead end down here right at the Garlock Fault at Cyril's Valley. And let's just go look that up too. So what you should take away from all this is that the weak points, these weak points are getting hit because there's an inundating force that comes into the plate. That the earthquakes are related to each other across vast distances, but they're not causing each other. So, oh wait, look what we have here. Out in the middle of the freaking desert. My God, look what we have. We've got high voltage power lines. Where is that going? It's going over to the big mining facilities over to the east. Look, you cannot tell me, because we're going across a good portion of the desert where we don't have any power lines. And then we get to a spot where there are high voltage power lines, and that's where our hotspots and our earthquakes break out. I could show you another couple examples over here. Let's see. Right here. Perfect example. Series of earthquakes broke out over here, right down around where this bend is, and you see what we have here. We have the high voltage power lines coming across the desert. It's the only spot where they are. And that's where the earthquake struck. That was like 6 months ago that broke out in the middle of the Mojave Desert out there. But I found the power lines. I said, man, wow. So there is a connection between the power lines. But it's the same connection that I think the volcanoes have. Electricity, but it's a natural electricity. It's a piezoelectric energy that goes through the plates. VLF, very low frequency. Hence, the standing waves that are forming over vast distances, thousands of miles apart, that's dropping off earthquakes all the way along the way. One lone quake out here in South Nevada. Let's go take a look and see what's there. Hey, look. Whenever I see this, I get super suspicious. When the USGS starts listing stuff as just like Utah or Nevada or California-Nevada border region, they don't triangulate it from a town or a nearby feature. It's like they're trying to hide the nearest town or nearby feature by doing that. I swear, I hate it when people swear, but I swear, it seems like somebody at the thing is issuing orders to hide this stuff. Come up with a reason. What's at the location? A little town out in the desert, huh? Don't want to draw any attention there. Oh, wait. Oh, we're at Doomtown. And we have a hotspot. When did this happen? Today! We have a hotspot that the computer is filtering out saying it's just a mistake. Hotspot at Doomtown. This is the 1950s location, Operation Rise Line, where they recreated it in the Indiana Jones movie, where he got into the refrigerator. Operation Rise Line, Doomtown, that's what they call it. Nuked. They nuked the place. And then all of these are underground nuclear test sites. I told you, they're trying to hide the earthquakes. I'm not kidding. I have to freak out on this. I've been gone for 3 weeks. I come back to this shit. Hiding the quakes, trying to change them. Anyway, multiple kiloton detonations. Look at how many there are. 1962, Operation Gundi. Operation Tan. U.S. nuke Operation Gerbil, 20.11 kilotons. Test done March 29th, 1963. Yeah. So we get a quake and a hotspot. No wonder they're trying to hide it. They're trying to hide the hotspot. They're trying to hide the quake. They're trying to hide that it's happening next to a nuclear test site. They're not doing nukes there now. It's just a weak point in the plate. It's the same reason that the supervolcano is getting hit up here at the California-Nevada border. It's the same reason we got a 1.9 earthquake out here at the supervolcano between Lake Tahoe and Pyramid Lake. It's the same reason we got a 2.0 earthquake up here next to the power lines. It's the same reason we have a line of 2.0 quakes coming out of Ridgecrest, and it's the same reason we're going down along the coast. The plate is shifting. Hiding it is asinine at this point. Same with up in Oregon, man. It's like, what kind of millennial freaks got in charge of... Sorry, millennials, I said Zoomers. What kind of Zoomers took over the freaking operation there that they're going to end up doing this kind of stuff? It's brain dead. You just need half of a brain and a little bit of investigative experience to go look this stuff up and realize that something shady's going on from the reporting of the agencies. But it wouldn't... I don't blame the people. It's got to be some kind of stupid directive from somebody. Or some organization or something. It's probably not even a person. It's probably some group. Groups tend to act in more stupid, than average people. Like, people in groups tend to be even dumber. Hence the past year and a half of what's been going on around the world right now. Look where we are. Speaking of people being stupid, and I'm not trying to be mean, but I've got to be harsh to the professionals because people got injured about what I'm about to tell you. Look where the earthquake is, and then you'll see we've got some place marks here. This location right here, well, here, let me type in the name. Aliso Canyon Oil Field. Okay, Google Earth, there it is. Aliso Canyon Oil Field. Take you back a few years. A series of small earthquakes like this started to break out. Zeros, ones, and twos. They came over from along the coast, and let me show you where they came from. Over here. We started to watch earthquakes come from over here, where you see where it says oil. All of these are pads, again, drilled into the mountainside here, oil and gas. A series of earthquakes several years ago started to come across this way. And once it got over here to a more populated area across North LA, I was making videos and showing everybody. Imagine my shock when an actual professional in the media, what was her name? Dr. Lucy Jones showed up and said there was talk online about oil pumping operations in North LA and Seismic next to him, and said there was no relation between them. She said the earthquakes are down below the pumping operation several kilometers or miles or whatever, and that it's too far down below to be related. And that they're not drilling down that far, so it just can't be a quake from that. And it's not related. And I was like, what are you talking about? You can perforate a piece of stone, just to score it even, just a slight scoring across the surface, and apply pressure on the underside of the stone, even if it's a couple feet thick even. And you can break the whole stone right through that right through that little score point on the surface. Same principle applies across a vast distance. They mocked me when I said that. Well, about 3 weeks later, earthquakes carried on. And then out of the blue, this thing blew up. Exploded. The stored gas that they were storing in the Aliso Canyon oil field and gas storage facility, I guess they have some caves or maybe even old drill points they were keeping things under pressure. It exploded and released the gas out into the air. Now, it turned out it was some kind of caustic, toxic gas. That wasn't just natural gas. It caused instant nosebleeds. As soon as people got it in their nose, bleed. And, like heavy bleeding. And they had to evacuate a couple 100,000 people up here. Now, the professionals, again, Lucy Jones, no relation because the earthquakes are just too far below it. Now, I say when you drill down into something and you put pressure on the side or underneath it, guess what? That pressure is going to make the difference between the point where you drilled and where the pressure is coming from. And there'll be a crack that can form between where you're drilling and where the pressure is coming from. And the pressure was coming from over here, following all the other drill points from out along the coast, coming interior on land, following the faults, basically. And then it gets to here, and you've got a drill points, storage area, and it broke apart. Well, now here we are in 2021, and we have another earthquake there. Does that mean it's going to break again? No. I haven't seen any other major quakes coming across yet. It's seeking out the drill points, though, hence the earthquakes going down to Parkfield. Hence the earthquakes over at the drill points at the geothermal over at Ridgecrest. Earthquakes up here at the Mother Nature drill point, which is the supervolcanoes. And again, earthquakes up here at the man-made drill point. And then earthquakes at the power lines, which are depositing energy down into the plate. Southern California, here we come. Just got done with North LA. What about Southeast LA? 1.7. Oh, well, it's just a quarry blast. No biggie. Home Gardens, California. Blasting some quarries down there. Just a regular day at the office. Notice how it's a quarry blast as opposed to an explosion up in Oregon, right? They can list the difference. So, here's a quarry, okay? Blasted a quarry blast, no biggie. We can deal with that. I don't know if I can deal with this, though. The NexRad high-power microwave, 500,000 to 750,000 watt microwave pulsing there. And over here on the east side, we got a little thing. What about these? Oh, no biggie. Just some more hotspots right next to where the earthquakes are. And right next to where the NexRad is. High-power microwave, earthquake, and hotspot all right next to each other? Oh, explosion, I'm sorry. Explosion, yeah. Yeah, that's the ticket. An explosion. Okay, diagonal line, just like up here. Oh, something else I want all the new people to see. This diagonal line of quakes here down in Southern California, going northwest to southeast. A diagonal line of quakes here at Ridgecrest, going northwest to southeast. A diagonal line of earthquakes here along the creeping section of the San Andreas, going from Clear Lake Volcano down to the drill points at Parkfield. And if you really want to connect them between Eastern California, you're making a diagonal line of quakes going from northeast California down across the California-Nevada border. They're all pointing back up to here, where we got the explosion. Oh, by the way, look, boom to boom. It must just be a coincidence. So what about far south? Well, we did not get our break last week. The last 3 weeks. Every week, we've been watching for something to take place in Southern California in particular, next to Ventura. And every week so far, we've gotten down to here. And the energy went out, following the arrow, down, over, up, and out across the United States. Okay? That's what's happened the last 3 weeks. The flow coming down along the coast obviously has been cut off. But why? Well, path of least resistance. It's easier for the energy to come in up here, go down across the plate, out and across, than it is to go down across this bottleneck broke plate boundary that gets down to all these drill points and volcanoes. That's the simple answer. That it's easier for the energy to go over to the east, hence all the arrows, than it is for it to go down to the south. Let's go back to my Craton diagram. Look at the arrows on the Craton diagram. This thing's been out for 10 years almost now. The black arrows along the coast. You see how they're double-sided? But the main push, you can see, comes in from the northwest and tends to want to flow across the plate to the east. Southern California sits for long periods of time without breaking. But then a big push comes in from the north, breaks right up here at Eureka, south arm of the Juan to Fuca. And then we get a push that comes in through Southern I almost called it Colorado. Southern California. And right now, that has not happened yet. Basic 101. Hasn't happened yet. It's gone over to the California-Nevada border, over here, and down to Texas. I would expect we can't go very much longer without something taking place here in between our oil pumping operations at Lompoc and Ventura. It's getting down to Parkfield. It's going down to the Garlock, but then it's going east. All it's going to take is a push big enough to get it to come down to the south. Again, basic physics. You push on something large enough or great enough, it's going to spread across the whole mass. Right now, it's trying to make a beeline from up here where it's pushing, down and across. What we need for Southern California to break, I don't want this, but just what is required for this to break is the energy has to come down and go down along the coast, or come down and go down along the California-Nevada border, but be heading in a southerly direction. The push has to be coming in from the north, going to the south. Right now, the push is coming in from the north and going to the east-southeast. The way it's supposed to. The way we want it to. We want this to go across the plate and drop off similar-sized earthquakes all the way along the way. So we want to see mid-range to upper threes striking up here in Quebec and Ontario at the New Hampshire-Vermont border. After fours on the west coast, you want to see threes on the east coast within the week. If you don't, it's locked and waiting to break with something bigger. So the fact that it went across is good, but we're dealing with the big one. We're dealing with major earthquake activity this week. And that gets me back to the start of the whole update, which is, where are we going to see this big activity take place? I'm thinking West Pacific. 8.0 level is coming in the next 7 to 10 days. We're already at 7.4 to 7.5 over in China. That's going to be spreading over to the west towards Europe. But there's a new push taking place with all these deep quakes. Something is disturbing below the whole Pacific where our deep quakes are raised high off the globe, where this is the central point, and it's going as far west here and as far east here. So that means the Pacific's about to move again. And it's about to be bigger than what it was previously. Again, we're pumping more into a tank that's already big. One or both of these ends is pumping in like an accordion, pushing energy into it, making the amplitude bigger, making the magnitude bigger. If anything else goes down, everybody, hold on. When did this hit? 1602? 4 hours ago? Huh. Was that there earlier and I just somehow missed it? Oh, it was. Hold on. It was there with the other smaller earthquakes. I was showing 6.0 and greater. That's why I missed it. Okay. Sorry. I missed this one out here in the Indian Ocean, west-northwest, which it doesn't really matter that much. Here, let me show you where it is on the plate boundary. Sorry. You missed one. Over here. Going up to the Carlsberg Ridge. So all this is really just adding in more energy and letting us know energy is still coming across. It's going up towards the number 7 shape, and we've got that warning going. Hey, wouldn't you say, if you come over and down and around, that pretty much right here is the halfway point between these two, if you go over and around and up and down? Okay, I love doing this. It's been 3 weeks. It's been a long time. I missed you guys. Let's go jump over to the chat room. Go see what's going on over there. Turn off a display capture. Go say everybody. Go see everybody and say hi. Look outside. Ooh, looks like it's going to storm. Got a little stormy weather here on the lake. Well, I hope you guys have enjoyed those sunrise and sunset views. We'll keep it going. Now, let me remind everybody, this is a serious point now. I do this at the end of every broadcast, but I really want you to pay attention. You need to have an earthquake plan. You need to know what to do when an earthquake strikes. I'm not trying to be harpy. I'm not trying to be know-it-all-ish or anything. But just take the time to think about what you would do if an earthquake of significant size strikes, wherever you are, even if you're not in a earthquake-prone area. Now, use the arrows to watch which way the seismic force flows. So if you live along the arrows, you need to know to watch just like it's a river. You wouldn't be shocked if a flood is coming your way after a rainstorm if you live along a river. Okay, so keep track, watch it come your way, and the magnitudes. You can, again, watch these 5s spread out. You watch the 6s spread out. You can even watch these 7s and 8 over the next couple of weeks. But don't be scared about it. You need to be prepared. So just think about what you'll do. Think about where you'll go. Also, you need to have an emergency kit. Somebody's asking a question. Where will it hit on the East Coast? East Coast of the United States. Okay, well, by the end of the week, first of all of our middle points are going to be filled in between our current sets of earthquakes. So, between southern Colorado and Texas, that means New Mexico, North Texas, where all the sets of rings overlap here next to, I guess, Amarillo. Then, at the Oklahoma-Texas border region, there's another cluster, obviously, where they all overlap. That goes into Oklahoma. The magnitudes on this should be a magnitude larger than what we're dealing with right now, since we're looking for a new push to come across. That means 3.9 to near 4.0 level activity across Texas. Then, over to Arkansas, where the rings overlap. South of Bull Shoals Lake in Missouri. You see it right there, where the rings overlap. I'd put it at the 3 level. I think 3s are going to come across, a magnitude larger than what we're dealing with across the board. East Coast. Look where the rings overlap here on the south side, right where the arrows is. The arrow is, arrows are. And we're going to watch in Georgia, or right at the Tennessee border. Again, for a magnitude larger. So it could go into the 3 range in Georgia. East Coast, we watch between our 4 all the way up here. Actually, hold on. There we go. There's going to be 2 spots. So, Pennsylvania and New York, Lake Erie, right here on the arrow. that should move, and it should be something about a half magnitude larger, so upper 3. And then up here to the north. I guess that's Quebec, eh? Oui? I said eh. I meant to say oui. How do you say Molson's in Canadian French? Okay. Same way? Molson's. Okay. Come on, I can do that. Come on down here to Missouri. Come on down, put on your country accent. I'll take you around out into the backwoods. We'll go turkey shooting. But seriously, down here again, or over here, we watch between the two. It should be in the 4 range. Okay? Ah, yes. Enjoy. Yeah, you hoser. You call me a hoser. Love it. All right. We will be back if anything else goes down. I'm saving this as a video, and it's going over on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, you have every opportunity to come over to watch it live over on Twitch. It's free to watch. If you want to go crazy in the chat room, you got to be a paying subscriber. Trolls, they hate it. Got to pay me to come in and chat. They're like, well, okay, you got YouTube. No problem, we're back. So we will save it. Word up, much love, and if anything else significant goes down, I'll be back on at a moment's notice. Peace out. Much love.